At first, everything seems to be against the infant hero of our drama, just as everything always was against the seventh son or ill-used stepdaughter in a fairy tale. But life somehow wins through. With incalculable sufferings, against all but insuperable obstacles, it spreads, it breeds, it complicates itself. From the amoeba up to the reptile, up to the mammal. Life, and here comes the first climax, quote, wantons as in her prime, unquote. This is the age of monsters. Dragons prowl the earth, devour one another, and die. Then, the irresistible theme of the younger son or ugly duckling is repeated. As the weak, tiny spark of life herself began amidst the beasts that are far larger and stronger than he, there comes forth a little naked, shivering, cowering biped, shuffling, not yet fully erect, promising nothing, the product of another millionth chance. He becomes the caveman with his flints and his club, muttering and growling over his enemy's bones, almost a brute, yet somehow able to invent art, pottery, language, weapons, cookery, and nearly everything else. Dragging his screaming mate by her hair, I do not know exactly why, tearing his children into pieces in fierce jealousy until they are old enough to tear him, and cowering before the terrible gods whom he has invented in his own image. But these were only growing pains. In the next act, he has become true man. He learns to master nature. Science arises and dissipates the superstitions of his infancy. More and more he becomes the controller of his own fate. Passing hastily over the historical period, in it the upward and onward movement gets in places a little indistinct, but it's a mere nothing by the timescale we're using, we follow our hero into the future. See him in the last act, though not the last scene, of this great mystery. A race of demigods now rule the planet, in some versions the galaxy. Eugenics have made certain that only demigods will now be born. Psychoanalysis that none of them shall lose or smirch his divinity. Economics that they have all to hand that a demigod requires. Man has ascended his throne. Man has become God. All is a blaze of glory. And now mark well the final stroke of mythopoeic genius. It is only the more debased versions of the myth that end here. That was a reading of C.S. Lewis's essay on what he called popular evolution. Paraphrased to avoid having to say any words I can't pronounce and or cultural references that wouldn't make sense to anyone, myself included. The essay is entitled, Funeral of a Great Myth. He isn't talking about Darwin's ideas. The topic of this essay is on the story that society made out of evolution and how, in his opinion, that story was soon to die. Generations later, I would read, listen to, this essay, and my first thought was, oh hey, that sounds like Spore. Spore, as it turns out, is a very accurate game about evolution. It's just that, probably by accident, it's a game about the kind of evolution Lewis was describing all those years ago. I can't blame people for liking this story, particularly since I'm one of them. It's optimistic if you stop it at the right spot, and it's about me! And if Thrive or Elysian Eclipse ever finish, they will each tell that century-old story all over again, each with its own little twist and flourish. But I'm not making a game about going into space. In Atoms in Time, no creature gets the catharsis of becoming sentient and winning evolution. I'm stuck with a bunch of dumb creatures living their dumb lives spread out over millions of years who never even figure out how to blow up the planet. So, how do you know when you're done? The lose condition in Darwin's struggle is obvious, but what is winning? And what's the story or progression of this game? Because you know they're going to ask for one. Let's take a look at the other big source of evolution media, documentaries. Documentaries about extinct stuff have been around for a long time, so how do they make evolution interesting? I've watched a lot of documentaries, I had a lot of documentaries on in the background, while coding Atoms in Time, and I think I've seen three main approaches. Strategy 1. Once you run out of CGI budget, you just tell the story of how these paleontologists found these bones in some far-off place. Then, when you run out of budget for location shoots, you just let some old nerd rant in the back room of some museum. A video game probably can't do that. Although procedurally generated rambling paleontologist would be pretty great content, I'm not making that here, sorry. The second strategy is to go episodic. Just focus on the adventure of one animal, like a normal nature documentary, and treat the process of evolution as a setting clear, so you can just talk about something else in the next episode with new characters. Which works, but kind of defeats the whole point. The final strategy is to just make a geologic period into another classic myth, and then cast the critters there as the main characters. Okay, hear me out. Long ago, there were these cute little furry things. They were the first mammals, and they wanted to frolic in the fields all day, but they couldn't because they were being terrorized by a race of bullies, led by an evil king, who was also some kind of gross reptilian. Yes, a tyrant lizard king. But the mammal had a heart full of love and cuteness, and would never wish anything bad on the bullies, no matter how bad they were to our mammal. So that's exactly what happened, and a giant rock comes from the sky and smashes all those lizards. Boom! And then the fluffy things lived happily ever after. The end. Once upon a time, there was a hard-working Dictodon? Diictodon, and a big, goofy Gorgonopsid. The Gorgonopsid said to the Diictodon, "Come out and play, so I can eat you." But the little Diictodon said, "No, I have to save food for when global warming comes." Gorgonopsid thought this was silly. "You don't have to store food when you're the big top predator," Gorgonopsid said. "That's the way to be." But then one day, the global warming came, and the Gorgonopsid wasn't ready. The Gorgonopsid died, and has no descendants living today. But neither does Diictodon. Shut up! You want to make the kids lazy! And science proves that if you don't have descendants 260 million years in the future, you are a failure. Don't go, you're gonna pay rent. No, under the sea!
You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of
terrestrial
life.
Now, it's easy to write off this mythologizing as some kind of intellectual parasite. And I understand if any scientists in the audience are screaming right now. And to be fair, there are depictions of the KPG mass extinction where they find something else to drop the rock on besides T-Rex. There are even depictions of Tiktaalik, the little fish guy that crawls out of the ocean, that isn't just standing there on the shore waiting to use the legs it already evolved. But those probably weren't the depictions that came to your head. And I don't think the reason why can just be blamed on disinformation. There's a place for evolution as it really is. Aggregations of statistics, lines moving according to their derivatives, and I think there's some absolute beauty in that. But other times, we want a story. We want to know what it means, why we care. And frankly, that's what I'm actually working on. 2 evolution games that aren't even about the real world. These games can be scientifically inspired, but they can't really be scientifically accurate because none of these species actually ever existed. So what should my evolution game be all about? I'm still not exactly sure, but I've got some ideas. First, at a moment-to-moment level, I don't think there's anything wrong with depicting the lives of animals as is. The vast majority of things that ever lived weren't sentient, weren't on their way to be, and I don't think they mind. The squirrels outside my window are much more motivated to start their mornings than I ever seem to be. And I bet if they could talk, they would tell me all about the time they found the biggest nut they ever saw. Shut up. And the epic battle they fought for that nut. Shut up. But in the long term, those tiny decisions by dumb animals do have great significance. There did not have to be monkeys in South America. That thread of our biosphere is just there because some brave primates got good. The way the jungle looks today is just 30 million years of scoreboard. People love running other Evo simulators and seeing what kind of world shows up. But what if you knew you earned that world? And even if it's not perfectly accurate, boiling down the average behavior of species to a few representative heroes, at least it's not a lie per se. And I think it's a durable story. A story we can connect to. You're not a lineage of alien insect invertebrates. But your life today is a collection of all the tiny choices you made up till here, along with a lot of random chance and just trying to wing it and get by. The next big feature I want to work on is the ability to take your save file from gameplay and open it up in the Auto Evo Explorer, along with a story of not only what you did, but how it helped build your world via the other species. So how does this game end? Literally just a timer. Throughout the game, there's a little thingy that says whatever 100 million years ago, implying that there's a present. If you're still around at 0 million years ago, congratulations. Take a look at the world you ruined. But it's gonna have to wait. I regret to inform you I have found a job at a company that pays me money, which means that Atoms in Time is now going from my full-time project that I should be putting more hours into to a part-time hobby fighting for my coding time with good old Thrive. On December 22nd, this essay I wrote to convince Thrive developers I knew what I was talking about, turned indie game studio, will reach a stopping point, if not necessarily a conclusion. When bugs are found, I will fix them as best I can because I owe that to customers. Afterward, we see what features players want to see, where this project fits into my life, and if people even like the game. I didn't put the game in early access because I can't promise it's going to be something better down the line. I want this game to keep growing, but I want you to know that that is just the best case scenario. So that's what's next for me. What's next for you? If you want to talk more about evolution, head down to Thrive's forums or Thrive's Discord. I'll be around on both. If you want to see more of Matt V's art, I have linked his YouTube channel in the description. He's got a Whopper meme. People like it. Seriously, this guy's a 3D machine. Last but not least, if you want to see this game project go on, play it. Stream it. Show people you're playing it. Complain about it. Talk about it. Talk to me about it. I love having a secondary income stream, but really it's my ego that's gonna make... I mean, what really motivates me is seeing other people love the works I made. Yeah, that. Let's go with that. Love that story. Bye.